So welcome to the Node.js community NAPI team meeting for the 28th of January 2019. We'll follow our standard approach of going through the current milestones, see what we're working on. I will share that. So let me just do that. Everybody should be able to see the milestone there. So top of the list is number 358, backports for TFSN. I know, Gabriel, you've been certainly seen a couple PRs that you submitted on that front. Do you want to give a quick update?
Yeah, so basically 11 is a clean merge, so I don't think I need any special backporting there. And
Excellent.
I have PRs in place for 10 and 8, but I noticed that with 10 there's a bit of a problem because in 11 we stopped supporting FreeBSD 10. However, when we seem to have upgraded the infrastructure so as to drop support for FreeBSD 10 because it no longer, like version 10.x, which is the branch against which I'm submitting the PR, it no longer compiles on FreeBSD 10. So I can't get a green CI job for the 10.0 backport because of FreeBSD 10. So,
right, okay. I'd assumed that there was, like, because I think I saw the exact same thing doing a backport against 10, and I ended up commenting saying, is this a known issue or what?
yeah, like I'm not sure what to do, right? Like if we are not going to be sending any greater than or equal to 11 CI jobs to FreeBSD 10, then maybe we should leave the infrastructure as is on FreeBSD 10 so that the older ones will work. Because I noticed that for greater than or equal to 11, the job for FreeBSD 10 is sort of grayed out. So I'm assuming there's some sort of flag that says, okay, don't build on FreeBSD 10.
So that would be fair enough that, yes, but so that actually makes sense to me in terms of, we said, okay, it's not supported for greater than 11.
Yeah.
Or greater than 10, fine.
Yeah.
But that may be completely unrelated to the fact that it doesn't compile on 10. Something, in my mind, something probably landed in 10 staging that shouldn't have.
Yeah. That's the other possibility, because like I checked the line in node.h or nodefile.h, which is causing the errors, and that I checked the last commit that touched it in 10, and I tried to run a build against that commit, and that commit fails. So that's, if I were to do a bisect, that would probably be the commit that needs to be removed. But I'm not sure, because it's that commit happens to be a refactor, so that's I'm not sure.
You have the links. Could you paste the links for the 8 and 10 backports?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Into that issue, because I think it'd be good to have them there so that we can find them.
Yeah, okay, can do. Wait, what issue was that?
And then based on that, like I've got one which is
okay, 358.
Node.
Oh.
I'm going to dig up the one where I had what I believe to be the same problem.
Yeah, we may just have to remove that one. But I don't know if we can just drop the commit. We need to submit a PR wherein we revert that commit or something, and then the release manager can sort of cancel out the two commits, the revert.
I think it's kind of, we need to get it onto the releases team's radar.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you pasting those into that issue?
Okay. Yeah.
I'll wait for you to do that.
V8.x backport, and then V8.x backport is, V8.x backport is perfectly fine. It's verdant.
Okay, so 8 was fine, but 10 was okay. So something's been backported onto 10.
Yeah. Okay, so there they are in a comment.
Right, sounds okay. I'm going to say, from the meeting today, sounds like there is a problem with FreeBSD 10 in the 8 and the 10.x staging and release branches.
Yeah, I I have some more.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I have some comments on the backport PR as well, because I ran a bunch of like CIs, and then I did a bunch of resumes thinking that it might be unrelated, but then when it kept coming up, then I realized that it's consistent.
Right. So what do you have? Do you have the commit? You think it's a particular commit? Can you paste that into this issue as well?
Yeah. The commit is this guy. Copy link location. Okay. The offensive commit. The commit on the 10.x staging that seems to have introduced the failure to compile on FreeBSD10 is this. Okay, like I haven't actually bisected, but that's the last commit that touches the place where there's a there's an error. But I can do well, it's kind of tough doing a bisect because I don't have FreeBSD 10 installed. So with every step of the bisect, I have to launch a job. So that would be rather tedious, but I can do it if needed. Like if that.
Well, if you think that's the last one, it's a good chance.
Yeah, that's the last commit that touched the place in node file.h, which is causing the error in FreeBSD 10. So I can run a job against the previous one, but at that point I might just want to do a bisect. Well, you know what? Let's leave this as the standing commit, and then I'll slowly in the background do a bisect, and if it turns out it's a different one, I can always
update
correct myself.
Yep. So what I'm going to this guy. I'm going to ask Bethany if she can help us here. .x staging. Okay, so I think, what we need to do is to get it onto the radar of the commit of the release team, because they kind of manage what gets landed.
Yep.
And since it's actually in v10.x as well, it was like not even just in staging, right? So.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It is. I think from like I did on the issue I was trying to get a green CI for, I said, okay, well, let's try v10.x staging. No, nope. Okay, and here's like v10. No, same thing. So, and I did one without my PR as well. So yeah, it's just, I'm pretty sure it's broken in both of those. And so that means it's even something that was backported, or like you said, maybe some infrastructure or whatever. But I think once we can get the release team engaged, they'll either say, we know about that, oh, that's new, or it's a CI thing and we can figure out how to push it forward. Okay. But I guess the 10.x backport is ready to go, although usually we'd want it landed in, sorry, the 8.x is ready to go, but we'd want it landed in 10 first.
Yeah, I guess we can, because that one's good to go.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's good. We'll get some, hopefully we'll go, Bethany can help and we'll figure out what's going on there. Next one is 353, focus on async worker. Honestly, still on my list. I don't know if anybody else has had a chance to look at that. I know you've done a couple things, Gabriel.
Just a second. I'm still, I just started the job against the parent of that commit to see if that is the problem, and I'm just commenting on the PR. Okay. I haven't really looked at it in the previous week. I didn't have a lot of time. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I just thought I'd check. I know you had, if you had at least one or two pull requests, though, that were picking off some things, right?
Yeah, I think we still need to land the suppress destruct for async worker. I don't believe
Right.
that, but I could be
Yeah,
mistaken.
if you could put the links to those in that issue, that would just show we're at least making some progress.
Okay.
And PR suppress destruct. I think I remember that there's a number that I've seen and sort of said, yeah, looks good, and then I was going to go through a pass of trying to land a bunch of stuff, but
yeah,
but I don't suppress. Other people are free, of course, to go in and do the landing as well if they have time. What was the suppress destruct PR number?
I'm just gonna paste it now.
Okay, yeah, even better.
Okay, so issues. Oh boy, milestones. Yes, here it is. So suppress. Okay, so well, actually, there is a reference to the PR.
I see it.
It's actually at the bottom of the issue. So
yeah,
I guess I did a in the commit message or something. But anyway, I can.
Where's the PR? Okay, it didn't. Yeah, if you can paste in the PR number, because that gave me the commit. Maybe
oh right, yeah.
Landed.
But it's weird for me. It says the PR. It says 407.
Maybe I clicked the upper thing. So yes, no, that's a good.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Okay, so yeah, so this is basically approved. Just I'll go through a passive landing, or anybody else who gets there before me.
Okay, yeah. I also had a few PRs, like the doc PRs that I was gonna land, but then of course I got distracted.
Sure.
So.
Well, yeah, go ahead and land them when you get there. Whoever gets there first, basically.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah. So I mean, slow. Let's still try and investigate NAPI helping a future breakage. I know. Okay, Nick, you were talking to. Was it the microtime?
Yeah, microtime. I just wrote to Wade, he is the maintainer, and he published the tagged version today. I think 2 hours ago, and I worked on Bgript. Essentially, I reported again because they changed a lot all the backend code in a function. And I added the support for Node.js, and I have a new paragraph on Bgript repo, and all is green on the CI, and I'm waiting news from the maintainers. So this is I hope that they agree to publish the NAPI version as and essentially merge the work on the master.
Okay. And it's the getting it merged into master. So like microtime, it sounds like, okay, there's one published with a tag, but the next question is like, what's the path to getting that as the default that people get?
Yeah, thank you to ask him. So maybe if I didn't receive news from Bgript maintainers, maybe I remember you. If they see more people that ask, maybe they just give us an answer.
Right.
Just to know.
Yeah, let us know if you're not, if you're being ignored or whatever. Let us know, and we can have a few more people jump in and say hey, because that sometimes helps.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I started working on other native add-on ref that is in the list, and I'm trying to port on Node.js API using Node.js API. So maybe I'm saying to not create collision with maybe some other in this meeting.
Okay. Okay, so looking at the list, so I know unfortunately Glenn and Edgar had to drop off. It sounds like they're very busy in terms of what's going on for them today. But I know that Glenn has reached out to the maintainer of Serial Port and got his Arduino, I think it was either shipped or on its way or arrived, but he's starting to look at doing a port of that one. In terms of ref, you just talked about iconf. So this one basically we need to see if we can get that landed, right? Sorry, Nick, you had something to say?
I remember that iconf started in November when we did the workshop in Kilkenny.
Okay, I'm going to, let's see if I'm just going to chime in on that one and say,
there were some outstanding comments there in the
okay.
PR. So I suspect this is a PR that we might have to take over because I'm not sure if the person who did the original PR at the conference is going to follow up on. So
right, okay.
At some point we have to call a timeout.
Yep. So let me see. I thought I just commented there.
Yeah, so did I. It certainly looked like it.
Right. Just confirming you are waiting on responses to your comments, and they are addressed. It might move forward as we are talking about whether we need to find somebody else take over the PR. And then maybe I will at Mr. Okay, so maybe that's a clarification that says, get Ben's confirmation that if it's addressed, it'll likely land, and then is the original PR owner going to get back to it? And if not, we can figure out, like you said, whether we need to find somebody to volunteer. Okay. Bcrypt, we talked about level down. I see Hitesh joined. It's been a little while, so welcome back. But I think when we last discussed this, we thought the next step was, since you'd worked on level down, to figure out if you could go back and talk to the original maintainer to see what the path might be to getting the NAPI version landed and the default.
Okay, I think this probably needs to be redone. That's the last discussion I remember having on this particular module, because we thought that it had gotten pretty stale, but I can follow up with them.
Okay. Well, I guess it's the bring it up to date and then see about the next, like, it's whatever the next steps are to get it landed, because it's one of these ones that it's going to break in 12. I think, well, we're impacted by the API change. I guess it's ones which are at risk and that are in SIGIM, so it's good to get them moved over to NAPI.
Yep, makes sense.
There's a separate list of ones that are actually going to break in 12. I think that's somewhere else we should dig out, but I think part of it's overlap. Okay, so you'll take the action to do that. Sounds good. Microtime. So Nick has already got that under the way. Time. Glenn has a PR and is engaged in getting that landed. SQLite. Jim is taking the leadership on that one. I saw you reached out to the maintainer who had a question, which I tried to answer. I'm not sure I did a good enough job, but we'll see, I think, on that front, right?
Right. So we're waiting to hear back from the actual programmers.
Yep. Node report has landed as a merge into 12. And, you know, we said it wasn't a good candidate, but it's going for 12 and beyond. It won't be an issue anyway. And 0MQ. And it sounds like there was already a version to be merged back to master. So that is just a matter of will happen, it sounded like. So I think unless anybody has something to add, we're good on that front.
I'm not sure if this is related, but it is kind of related to like major version of Node. The discussion about how to advertise the Node major version for modules. After talking to Ali some more, in the comments on the Electron PR, it's becoming clear that the solution that he proposed seems to be the simplest one. But that puts NAPI in an interesting position because the whole Node module version checking does not apply to NAPI modules, right? They always have a version number of -1, and there's a special case in the loader. So so if we want to have some sort of ABI declaration for NAPI modules, then we need to implement that ourselves, because you know, our modules may well be using other ABIs as well besides just NAPI.
Right.
And so this module, this ABI declaration may still apply, but may its usage may be restricted to just NAPI modules.
Because I think today our story would be, if you're using any of those other ones, don't declare yourself as NAPI.
Okay. Yeah, but then there's a problem though. Like, what if you want your interface to the engine to be an API, but you still want to use those, right? Like, if you the NAPI interface is sort of married to this module loader.
But as we talk about it, it may be that we can fix that, like maybe through another macro where basically you can declare your entry point through a macro, which will give you the NAPI API, but still bind you to a particular Node version.
Okay, yeah.
That might be the right answer, because that basically says, yes, I'm using an API, but I'm not going to load with something that doesn't match the ABI version because I've got a dependency on that ABI version.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that sounds like a simple solution. So we keep the Node module version signature, but we use an API.
Right.
Okay.
So it's basically, you're basically saying I'm still bound to, because you still get the benefits of, it's not, you know, you won't have to change your code.
Yes, that's true.
Right. Well, you won't have to change your code for V8 stuff. Like if you're using OpenSSL, it's a different version of OpenSSL or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're making that choice to say, okay, wait a sec, I don't get that. I don't get the free. And therefore, now the only thing I wonder is, do we need to, if it's basically you declare it with a different macro and it automatically does the right things, I think that would be a good.
Yeah.
Now there's probably going to be some tricks in there or something, but.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How do we, yeah, like how do we tell the NAPI module loader that to create a node module structure with a version rather than a -1? Yeah, and yeah, there are some tricks, because then the entry point is different. So yeah,
Right.
we may have to reach into like the DL open implementation that we have in node binding
Right.
.cc. So there might be a bit of an interaction there, but yeah, yeah, right off the bat, it doesn't look impossible. So
Right.
okay, so I'll start thinking about how we do that.
Okay. Because yeah, I think today it would be like, no, if you're reaching into those other things like libuv or anything else, you shouldn't be declaring yourself as an API, but then we're
Yeah.
restricting who can use it, which is
Exactly.
unreasonably, like we should basically make it so that anybody can write using an API, but still have the safety net. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to open an issue just to in the repo, or maybe let's do it right now? What should we call that?
Yeah,
If we
okay.
said, just so that we remember to, I'm going to say new issue.
All right.
But with fixed ABI version.
Yeah. Well, fixed node module version, I guess.
Right, that's right. Node module version.
Yeah.
In case module would like to use API, even if they are using other internal APIs like libuv, OpenSSL. Today that would be unsafe because an API bypasses the node module version check, and therefore should only use an API for fewer modules. We should.
I'm not sure if this gives us enough flexibility. Like, if we do this, and if we tie an API modules to node module version, then we're basically saying that if V8 changes, then you have to rebuild the module.
Well, not V8. You're basically saying if you have a different node module version, you have to rebuild it.
But sometimes the only reason we have a different node module version is we have a different version of V8. OpenSSL hasn't changed. libuv hasn't changed.
Correct.
So, and an NAPI module will never be using V8, right? So now we're unnecessarily. You could argue that we are unnecessarily tying an NAPI module to changes in V8, which it doesn't care about anyway. So, it seems like not enough granularity to me.
I will agree with you. Having said that, if we did it, it would be better than doing nothing.
Yeah, but I'm still thinking like maybe
I'm not saying stop thinking.
No, but the thing is, like, we already have a solution which may not be applicable to all of Node.js, right? Because if you are using V8, then you should very clearly be tied to the Node module version, right? But if we had like an ABI declaration, which is optional, which I floated in that PR, right, against core. If we had that, but only for NAPI modules, then NAPI modules would still not be tied to V8, but they could optionally choose to be tied to other ABIs, and which ABIs they are tied to could be very easily specified,
Yeah, no, so I think we should explore that as part of the discussion of this issue.
Yeah.
So I'm like, from my perspective, the better we can make it, the more flexible. But if we have trouble getting that far, I still think there would be value in this first step of, okay, you can take advantage of an API, you can write your code so that it uses that, and it's no worse than for other modules in that the Node ABI version is the only thing you have. and it at least lets you use an API, right?
Yeah, I'm just.
But if we can do better,
Yeah, that's what
totally
I'm thinking.
happy with
Like
that.
if we go with this tie to the node module version first, then people will adopt that. People who use libuv and OpenSSL, right? But then they'd have to make another code change if we then go ahead and give them more granularity later.
Yeah, if we give more granularity later, anybody. Yeah. So I think we should think about it, come up with the best thing we think we could get landed now.
Yeah.
And if we can do, if we can get the whole shebang in there, that's great. But I don't think we should say we'll do nothing if we can't, because I think what we just talked about would still be at least a step, right?
Yes. I mean, yeah. I mean, I can basically move that PR that I have to from like node.h to node API.h kind of, and just have those API declarations apply to an API modules. In which case, I would drop tracking of the engine version, because the whole point of an API is that you don't have to track the engine version. So we'd have fewer defined API components. We'd basically just have OpenSSL, libuv, and the libicu, I think. But since that's just a proof of concept, we'll also have to agree on which parts of the API we wish to track independently.
Right, and how do the numbers get fixed? And
yeah, exactly. So
it's pretty much, and I think, and I gotta think it's going to require some changes in Node as well, right? Like maybe the same changes that you were proposing before, anyway.
Well, only insofar as having a place where you declare these things and where you formalize the fact that just as when you update the V8 minor version, you update node module version. So too, when you update the OpenSSL to something you know to be API incompatible, you update like the node module API OpenSSL version, and then you increment that and so forth. So basically,
right.
it just widens the playing field, and you get a richer API signature than a single number.
Yeah. No. Okay. So anyway, let's work through that, because I don't know. What I guess I don't know is that going to be easier? Like if you were talking to Ali and it's like, oh, wait a sec, we don't want to get that complicated. Because it's an API related, is that going to make it any different discussion?
Yeah, that's true. However, well, it has to be a different discussion, right? Because in the classical node modules discussion, V8 and the version of V8 plays a role. Right?
True.
So
yeah.
so the vendor prefix is not usable there, right?
Yeah.
And Ali's arguing that the V8 plus OpenSSL plus libuv plus everything else constitutes a vendor prefix, right? But if you're just sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you can make the same argument in terms of it's correct that you've got this one thing, but just because, so in the case of, an API has removed V8 from the mix.
Yes.
But in the case of if you still have 2 or 3 different things that you want to declare separately so that if they don't change in an API breaking way, you don't have to rebuild.
Yeah.
That if anything applies more to to non-NAPI modules than for NAPI modules, because you've also got the V8 one, right? Versus the NAPI, it's already slightly better.
Yes.
Because if you're not using V8, you can basically ignore that, right?
Well, no. There's a different perspective here. Those who do not move to V8, who choose not to move to V8, they understand that they have to build for every node major version and so forth. So they are prepared to build, like Ali said, 130 different builds, right? However, those that use an API, they wish presumably to have as few builds as possible, right? And so to give them builds for exactly those environments that change and none other, that's, I would say, a good thing, right? Like, don't unnecessarily rebuild your module, like, ever.
But I think it's, I don't know if it's that people choose to use V8 and say, okay, I'm willing to build 138 things. It's like, oh, I'm using OpenSSL, I'm using libuv, that's my only choice. I guess I'm like, I don't think necessarily that they care less about it. It's just that they have no choice.
But basically, let's say you're using an API and libuv, right? Which is a common thing if you're using like thread-safe, right? And you're writing your own threading
Well,
now.
thread-safe is there to get around that, so you don't have to.
Well, no, because you have to have some sort of threaded implementation to begin with, right?
Right, you use your native threads in that case, and you don't have a
right? But you know, if you're starting out with a Node application, then and you still want to use native threads because async worker doesn't work for you, then you might be using libuv. And I mean, there are others that use exactly two things, V8 and libuv, right?
Sure, yeah, like, I would agree that libuv would be the next most used thing.
Exactly. So then if you switch to using an API and libuv, right? Now if we're going by this version number, now you have completely given up the utility of the fact that libuv changes so slowly,
Sure. Yep.
So you could have like ABI stability that is the lesser of an API and libuv, but if we just tie it to node module version, then we are artificially churning the system.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's why I'm thinking we should have an ABI declaration that says I use libuv.
Yeah. I'm not arguing against what you're saying at all. I was just saying we might still run into the same concerns that you had before.
Yeah, I mean, basically for an API at its simplest, we could use a second number, which is not node module version, which bundles everything else. But at that point, if we're starting to split hairs between including V8 in the increment or not, we might as well just go all the way and break it at the natural boundary, which is the various dependencies that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so I mean, I won't argue against it, and we'll see if see where concerns or non-concerns come out, and then we can sort of go for the full thing, and if we can't get there, how close can we get? So, but
yeah, like I can maybe do a PR against just an API and just put this rationale in the comments.
Right. But it wouldn't be just an API because you would need something in Node that tells us the versions, maybe.
Well, that would be like node version.h. So, like just as an API version is declared in node version.h, so too can these things be.
Right. Yeah, but it's a commitment of people updating them and whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. It's the same. It's the same. It's the same responsibility as updating node module version.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me actually. So, and then the loader for an API would check those, and even once you've got that in place, well, yeah, I guess it's addressing a different problem. It's addressing the loading problem, not how you get your individual numbers.
Exactly. Yeah.
You then might fall back to the same problem of, well, Electron wants to assign a new OpenSSL number, right?
Yeah.
But now you'll just actually have a bunch of numbers that you can do it to.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, but the numbers together would track the various ABI compositions more closely and more naturally.
Yeah, that's not actually a bad thing, because that might actually help with like some people who build Node and using like OpenSSL from a shared library.
Yeah, exactly.
You could potentially have that do some checks as well.
Yeah, that would be the Debian case.
Yeah,
but
they might be quite favorable on that, and that it's like, okay, we could have some code that says when you load the shared library, what version is it? Can you map that to an ABI number? Does the ABI number match? Yes, you're good. No. Okay.
Well, Ali correctly pointed out that Debian policy has it such that multiple major versions of a library can coexist, and any given package may depend on exactly one version of that library, and so the release process could tie successive Node.js versions to successive versions of OpenSSL, but that's not necessary, right? I mean, you could have two different major versions of Node.js linking against the same version of OpenSSL.
Yes.
So now if you track OpenSSL separately and you're using an API, now you don't need to rebuild your module. Whereas
right. No, I meant more you could, like today, they could set it up so that they're loading a version of OpenSSL which actually is not compatible with Node.
Oh yeah. So they would definitely need to request their own versions and so forth. So
and then once you get, but I was going at was like once you have those versions, you now have the information where we could have a safety check, so that they may like those versions for those reasons in addition to the ones we were thinking about.
Yeah. So, yeah,
another good reason for having like, an OpenSSL version number, or now I guess we have the version numbers. What we don't have is any indication of whether it breaks the ABI or not, though, right?
Yes, exactly, because the version numbers are not expressive enough. They're just saying the ABI of Node.js has changed. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
So, and of course, Node.js assumes the worst, which is a good conservative assumption.
Yep.
But it's overkill for an API to be so conservative, because the whole point of an API is that you need not be so conservative.
Yeah. No, I know. So I think we're on the same wavelength.
All right, so yeah, let's see how people react to a PR like that, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Okay, membership review still active. So this one, I think actually it's just a matter of filtering based on who said they were active or not. Jim, I think, did you want to?
I think I started that. I should probably finish it.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so it's just a matter of
I will look at that.
Not active to
okay.
To emeritus.
Okay, I'll make that happen, Michael.
Okay.
And I think it might be worth. I'm gonna say Anisha. Actually, no. Let's do that separately. Okay. So yeah, you just move that one forward.
Okay.
I think there's also one in Node on API as well.
Correct.
Okay. Sorry. And it was good that we did that, but it wasn't in the SQLite part we already talked about. Burn down issues raised by module owners. I don't have anything particular to highlight this week. There was a few questions. I can't remember if it was Node on API or Node about a potential memory leak. So I've been trying to help in the discussion on that. Any others that people have noted that we should talk about?
Just PRs to review. We know that on API.
Yep.
I looked at.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
I actually have missed a whole bunch, so we're catching up. So what is the kind of overall status of adoption that we have seen so far? Like, are people generally kind of finding a lot of issues that are hurting adoption, or people kind of not into it? Like, what, do we have a general sense of what's going
on? My overall picture, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're sort of we've got like a healthy pace going on. It's not easy. It could be faster, but just judging from the fact that we're having so much conversation of Node on API, and so many proposals and people coming in and submitting patches, I think we're not exactly sidelined. Like it has to happen.
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong. That's my impression.
I wanted you to jump in first, but I think I still see sort of an uptick in people asking questions, trying to use it. If I look at the Node add-on API module, I'm looking at.
Can I?
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that more people are trying to adopt the module, because in the 1st of December we passed from 5,000 downloads per week to 85,000 downloads per week. So it's
Wow.
we incremented the download a lot in the last months. So we have more people that are asking us how to solve little problem opening issues. So my impression is only a qualitative impression. It is good. So yeah, I think that people want to adopt Node.js API. It's only my thing.
I think the other thing we'll see is that FS Events is one of the ones, I think it supposedly gets like 1 million downloads a month or something. And they're pushing, they basically said they really wanted it backported to 8.
Okay.
Because it would allow people to adopt it. And so once that actually happens, we might even see a bigger bump. Although we don't, because you pre-build your binaries, you may not see that.
Yeah.
But that's another place where in terms of usage, that could expand usage significantly.
So Node API, I'm looking at npm.js.com. It says like 146 dependents. So these are 146 NAPI-enabled modules that are being used, right?
Yep. Basically said that's a dependency that we've included in their package.json.
Right on.
So yeah, I think like Gabriel said, we could do more evangelization. We could push it further, but it still seems like we have a sort of a slow and steady growth. And certainly that I did notice, like Nick did, that around the November. And when was NodeConf?
Just after NodeConf. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It's
so that's probably a good example where NodeConf EU was probably a contributor to that.
Right on.
Yeah.
But we still have a lot of work to go, I think, to realistically, right? It's still an effort to continue to support the adoption and people picking it up and stuff. But at least there's signs that it's moving forward.
That's great. That's great. So, I mean, what are the top 3 or 5 issues that people are like we are seeing feedback in general? Like, is the pre-build thing still an issue, or?
I don't think anybody's complained about that. A lot of the issues are around threading.
Yeah. I was going to say threading. Yeah.
And that's why, like the TFSN stuff, we're working on getting that backported to 8.
And we need a C++ interface for it. And Philip has been working on that. But his PRs require a lot of review, so we really need to go over them very closely, because we're committing ourselves to a C++ interface for this at that point. And so that's sort of the wider discussion. But honestly, the whole threading thing is part of like a bigger trend, I think, of just getting a multi-threaded JavaScript going. I mean, what with worker threads now being available without a flag and everything, we are just the native side of the whole multi-threaded JavaScript discussion. I think
even more so is just that as more people have been working to look at it, have been picking it up. We've heard more from the people who need to do threading, and when we tell them don't use libuv, that was a bit of a challenge, and that's why the TFSN, which lets you not use libuv but still get more sophisticated threading, was important for the FS events.
Yeah.
For example, and I think that's similar for a bunch of the other modules. So hopefully this is getting us closer to the 80% coverage. As we learn what people are missing to be able to move over. Hopefully that TFSN is one of the key parts for the better coverage side. I mean, otherwise, I don't think, Gabriel or Nicola, Or, well, Jim, anybody like,
Oh,
other than threading and general questions, I don't remember too much.
People
Yeah,
need
it's
examples, I think. That's another thing. Like just I had an example going with how to asynchronously fill in an array buffer and pass it back to JavaScript. That's another thing I need to post, because there was a question squarely about that. You know, people are still having difficulties understanding that they need to persist references from the time that they queue an async job to the time that the on OK gets reported, so that they can then call back into JavaScript upon job completion. Like if they need stuff from JavaScript that they need to pass back into JavaScript after the thread is done. So the whole persistent reference thing is still a concept that people need to gain a deeper understanding of. But that's a key concept, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, the interesting thing is I don't think it's any different for an API than from NAT.
No, of course not. No,
it's not like this is something new we've introduced, or there's a gap as far as I understand in what we provide. It's just that it's one of the more...
Yeah, it's a fundamental concept, yes. Yeah, so no matter what framework you use, you will not be able to get away from having to keep persistent references. And it's a fundamental way of adjusting yourself to thinking about how to bridge a garbage collected environment to one that has explicit allocate and free. And so those questions will keep on coming. And since we are now those who provide the environment as opposed to NAN, we will be the ones receiving those questions. Yeah. So that's another thing I think that I'm kind of seeing as a trend.
Now the other thing, so Aruni's just catching up. If we had unlimited resources, the other thing we'd probably push on too is there was some discussion of building a layer that would implement NAN on top of an API.
Yeah,
that was my other question.
So I mean, I know Gabriel, did some investigation on that. So it's not impossible. It's just a fairly big effort.
Yeah.
So when it's not on top of an API, it would be on top of Node add-on API.
Yeah, basically, yeah, it's better. So one of the important benefits of having such a shim would be that you could do what looks like mixing V8 code with an API code. And the reason why it would be possible is because the V8 code, this being a shim, would just really be Node add-on API calls in the back, right? And so unlike the genuine V8 implementation, our shim would then have methods for constructing what looks like a V8 object using an API or Node add-on API objects, and what looks like Node add-on API objects using V8 objects. And so for add-on maintainers, the huge benefit would be that they could gradually port over their code. So as soon as they depend on the shim, their entire code base would all of a sudden shift from calling V8 to calling an API ultimately, but the look and feel of the code base would be exactly the same as if it were still V8.
But we will automatically insert some perf issues
potentially.
It would be mostly inline, like most of it would be inline. And so it wouldn't introduce perf issues except the function signature. Again, we'd have to do yet another layer of thunking because the function signatures simply don't line up. And so you'd be going from a function signature that looks like V8 and really is V8 inside the NAPI implementation to a C NAPI function signature, to a Node add-on API function signature, and then back to a function signature that looks like V8. So okay, you can cut out one step there, which is to skip the Node add-on API function signature and just supply translate the sort of faux V8 signatures directly to C NAPI. Because you can interchange Node add-on API and C NAPI very easily by just constructing an environment, constructing a NAPI value from the C structure.
But I think we're out of time, and I have to move. I'm hosting the next meeting, but I think
good.
It's kind of like a chakra core shim. So I don't know if Arunish and Hitesh, you can think a bit more about that, and maybe next meeting we can discuss it some more, because some of the same challenges might have been with what you saw with Chakra Core, or the Chakra shim, and how effective it was for native modules. So I'd be interested to hear what your feedback was. Like, did you cover enough that native modules just worked, or was there still issues and so forth? But we are down to our last minute, so
yeah. All right, let's pick it up another time. Yeah,
pick that up next time. So so thanks for everybody for attending this week, and we'll look forward to talking to everybody next time at this new time.
All right.
Week.
Okay.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.